Today we're talking about inversions. What are they? Why do we use them? And what is the best way to practice and play them? We've already learned the chord basics, but if you need a refresher, you can click on the link in the description below. The most basic chord or triad is what we call root position. This means that the lowest note is the name of the chord and the other two notes are just skips apart. Written on the musical staff, chords in root position are really easy to recognize because they look like cute little snowmen. If I gave you this chord progression and we played all the chords in root position, it would look like this. And as you can see, that's a lot of bouncing around to different positions and it doesn't sound very smooth. And this is why we use inversions. Inversions change the voicing of our root position chords. Or another way to think about it is when we invert a chord, we're rearranging the notes, and this makes our playing sound a bit more sophisticated. So here I have a C major chord in root position. C is on the bottom, then E and G. If we move C to the top of our chord, then we have inverted the chord and are in first inversion. So now E is on the bottom, followed by G and C. It's still a C major chord, just in first inversion. Also, notice the shape difference on the staff between a root position and first inversion chord. This is helpful to notice because you can immediately tell the difference between the two. Then we can invert it again by moving E to the top of the chord. And now we're in second inversion with G on the bottom, then C and E. Again, still a C major chord, just rearranged and now in second inversion. Now, if we invert it again by moving our bottom G to the top, look where we end up. We have C on the bottom, then E, then G. This is back to our root position. So all triads have three different positions: root, first inversion, and second inversion. Let's look at our chord progression again. We just played it in root position with all of these jumps. But now that we've learned how to invert chords, we can make this progression sound much smoother, and we won't have to move our hands all over the place. We'll start our C major chord in root position, so C, E, G. Every time we come back to a C chord, let's plan to keep it in root position. Now, instead of moving all the way down to root position for our next chord, F major, let's see if its first or second inversion is closer to where our C major root position chord is. So here's C root, here's F root. Now we're going to invert it by bringing F to the top of the chord, leaving A on the bottom, then C, then F. So if I go from a C major root position to F major first inversion, you can see it's already much smoother and closer compared to C root to F root. Let's see if F second inversion is any better than first inversion. So here we are in F first inversion, and now we want to invert it again. So we'll move the bottom A to the top, leaving C on the bottom, then F and A. Now if I play C major root position chord to F major second inversion, you can hear how smooth that sounds. compared to 2 root position chords. So C root position to F second inversion is the smoothest option. Our next chord is C again, so we go back to our C root position. So far we have C root to F second inversion, back to C root. Our next chord in the progression is G, so let's figure out the smoothest way to get from C root to a G chord. So here's C root, and then here's G root position. So again, it's quite far from C. So let's invert G to first inversion and see if that's closer to C. So G is on the bottom, leaving B and D. Now let's invert it, so we'll take G, bring it to the top, and here we have our first inversion. So from C root position to G first inversion, we have a very smooth transition with this G here staying the same between the 2 chords. After that, we end our chord progression with another C root position chord. So our full progression with inversions is C root, F second inversion, back to C root, then G first inversion, and C root position. Okay, let's talk about how to play these different inversions. When we play root position chords, we usually use fingers 1, 3, and 5 for both right hand and left hand. Yes, you can use different fingering if you want, but it's best to start with the habit of using 1, 3, 5 because your brain will have an easier time recalling how root position chords feel in your hand. So, continuing with our right hand, all first inversion chords should be played with fingers 1, 2, 5. And second inversion chords with fingers 1, 3, 5. So it's the same fingering as our root position. Now our left hand root position chords are played with 5, 3, 1, just like the right hand. Then when we invert it to first inversion, we play again with 5, 3, 1, and then second inversion is 5, 2, 1. Again, these aren't hard and fast rules, but do it the standard way first, and then you can change it as needed. To practice your inversions, definitely start with hands separately. I'm going to show you the basic inversion exercise, and I'll start with my right hand. So I'm going to play a C major chord in root position, then follow it with a first inversion, then second, then root position again, 1 octave higher. Now I'm going to go back down, so second, first, and root. Notice how I'm picking up my hand and moving right to the next position. So I want you to be able to do this as well, even if you have to go super slow. So think of jumping to your next chord rather than sliding and trying to find your notes. Once you're feeling pretty confident with this, then focus on speed. And don't forget to practice your left hand as well. So root. And for the final challenge, try hands together. Sometimes we want the sound of all root position chords, and that's totally fine. But now that you know how to invert chords, I hope you'll be able to use them in your playing when you want something to sound a little smoother and more refined. As always, please let me know if you have any questions or just say hi in the comments so I know you're here. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you at your next lesson. Bye.